Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. So today's project I thought we would shoot a little video on is putting together, lacing or splicing together flat belts. This is something that I've actually had some questions about on the channel, and since we're going to be doing a good bit of lacing today for the advanced planer matcher, I thought I would kind of go over some stuff on using the clipper lacing system, which is what we primarily use out here at the museum. So there's a couple of different kinds of leather of belting that you can use. You can use leather or some of this rubber coated canvas material. Back in the old days they mostly used leather, but probably in the 30s and 40s they really started switching over this rubber coated canvas just from a cost standpoint, and quite honestly that material kind of holds up a little bit better to wear over time. It doesn't stretch as bad, doesn't tend to rot as bad. And we're going to probably be using a mix today of both leather and the canvas coated rubber coated canvas type belting. So I dug around out at here at the museum, and I did find a good bit of belting. Some of it is in better shape than others, but I think we at least got enough to get started. I don't know that we got enough to finish up the job. And I'm gonna have a few more rat holes I can dig in maybe to find some more. So anyway, we're gonna get you in here and start going over the process of lacing belts. All right, so the type of lacing that we're going to be using is what's called this clipper style, and it is basically little metal staples that you put into the leather or into the belting material, and there's a special machining process to go through that, and then there's a pin that goes in here, and it kind of works like a hinge and lets it bend around that area in there. So you kind of get an idea. You have to put the lacing on either side. You'll notice that there is about a 3/8 inch gap from the end of the leather to the end of the leather, where the little belt splicer goes in there. The actual, in this case, it's just a piece of kind of plastic material. In the old days, they used rawhide for these little pins. I've seen steel used for them too, but now it's almost a plastic type material that goes in there. But anyway, you see that little gap in there, so when you're cutting your belt lengths, you need to take that into consideration. There's about a 3/8 inch gap. You want to get these belts tight, so they go on here tight and they don't slip. Belts will stretch over time, and from time to time you'll have to come in here and actually cut a section out, shorten the belt up, splice it back together again, and keep on going. And we're trying to get these pretty tight on the first round. Of course, if you get it too tight, you're in a mess, because then you have to cut a section out and put a splice piece in between there, which is not very desirable. So you want to try to get these right. Getting a belt length right, I wish I could tell you some secret formula that just always works, but quite honestly, there's some trial and error involved, and there's just you just kind of get a feel for it after you do quite a few of these as to how much material needs to be cut out. A lot of that depends on the length of the belt that you're doing. Obviously, a longer length belt is going to have more stretch in it, and the width of the belt and some other factors along there, but we'll try to go over some of that. So anyway, this is the end result, and we'll show you how to get there. All right, so the belt that we're going to start with here is one of the belts to power the side heads on the planer matcher, and this belt's kind of interesting because it does take a half twist to turn the motion from linear to vertical. So there's the pulley up front is vertical, this pulley is linear, so the belt will make a half twist, and this kind of makes for a challenging splice because there's just a lot of stretch in these. So I've already got these kind of cut, and I'm hoping that I didn't cut out too much material in here. I think that there's a good bit of slop in these. It's going to stretch out when we put these on, and again we're going to lose about 3/8 inch of that distance, but I can only pull these so tight by hand, and even now I can tell that those belts are pretty loose. So we're going to go ahead and put the lacing on and see if we can get this to fit. Now I've already cut the belt that we're going to splice together, but I do want to mention a little bit about cutting these. So it's very important that you get a nice square cut on your belt, and that can be simply accomplished by just using a square. and a knife. A razor blade works better. I don't have one out here, but you just want to cut that nice and square at your cut length. And this is the most common way of doing it, is using a square. However, we've actually got a nice little tool out here. This is a belt cutter that's made by Clipper, the same people that make the rest of our lacing material. And you just put it in here. It's kind of got a guillotine type action to it. So you got a fence back here on the back to square it up, and you just press it down. There we go, and that cuts the belt. This is a fairly thick leather belt here, but that's one way of getting a nice square cut. And this is the tool I'll be using just because it's a little bit easier than using the knife and the square method. The next step is determine what size lace you actually need to use, and Clipper makes their lacing. It comes in strips that kind of look like this. You have a series of staples that are held at the proper spacing with a little paper backing on them, and you cut these to the proper length, but they come in different sizes depending on the thickness of the belt. And so they actually make a little gauge here, again by Clipper, that has different size slots in here, and you can just go along and put your belt in there until you find the right one. And this one here, it looks like it needs a number 3 lace, and I have a box of those right here. So this is the proper lace for this size belt, and what we'll do is we'll kind of lay this up on here, and again using a knife I'm going to cut these just off enough of these laces to do my job, and we need to actually cut it about right there. So to properly clamp these down or tighten these laces up onto the belt, you need a little fixture, a little tool to do that. And Clipper, again, made several styles of these over the years. This is the most, probably the most inexpensive one to acquire. You can still buy this stuff new from like McMaster-Carr, or you can pick these up on eBay or other Craigslist, places like that. But this is a pretty simple one that you actually we'll put the lacing in, and we'll show you how to do that in a minute. But this one here mounts in a vise, and you just simply use your vise to squeeze these together. So you would just put it in a regular bench vise. It works. It's a little bit clunky, but you know, if you're not doing a lot of lacing, this will get the job done very easily. Clipper also made a benchtop model that is similar to this, but it actually has a clamping mechanism built into it. It has 2 levers that kind of come up, and you squeeze them together, and it again squeezes this together to close those laces up. Somewhere out here at the museum we have one of the benchtop styles. I'm not sure where it's at. I've seen it before, but that's not the one we typically use. And the one we use, and we'll get you over here where you can see it. So the model that we use is this floor model, and it's basically the same principle as the other models, the bench top and the one that you put in your vise, but instead it's a real nice floor mounted one that you can really get in here and use very easily. So they made these in different widths. There's some pretty wide models of these floor lacers that were actually used for lacing together conveyor belts. And of course this one here is more for just doing regular belts. If your belt is wider than this, it's no problem. You just lace part of it, and then you put part of your lacing that you just did back into these little index holes, and you know, just continue on. Just your belt can actually slide across this thing depending on how wide it is. So let's go ahead and get that lace put in there, and you can see how this is done. All right, so what we want to do is open this up as wide as we can. And I usually kind of take my leg and prop up against this handle just to kind of keep it open so this thing doesn't pinch me while I'm working on it. There's a pin that goes in here, and this pin is the same diameter as the lacing, the splicing material that you put in between the pins, and you want to form it around that so that it is something the right size so you can get that pin in and out. I'm going to pull it out for right now. We'll just kind of set it aside. If you notice, there's little slots in the bottom of this lacer here, and that is to properly position each one of the pins so they're the correct distance apart. And on the card, it's real nice. They're already spaced together. The ones on the end sometimes want to flop around a little bit, but you just kind of push it down in here and get it going down into those slots. Take your pin, slide it in. Now it's captured, and this piece of paper, you can either leave the piece of paper on, put the belt in there, and clamp it up. It actually comes off pretty easily once it's tightened up, but I really like to just go ahead and remove the paper ahead of time. It just makes the cleanup a little bit easier later on. So we'll go ahead and pull that paper out. On some of the smaller lacing, it's really difficult to get this piece out, but on the bigger lacing like this, I prefer just go ahead and pull it out. So now we'll come in here with the belt, and we're just going to drop the belt down in there, and you know, I'm kind of centering up those clips. You don't want to get them too close to the edge. If you get them too close to the edge, they're probably just going to tear out. So usually when I'm cutting my lacing or my clips in here, I'll cut them a little bit short, because again, you just don't want to get them too close. And then to clamp these together, I'm just going to use the handle over here on the side. It pulls in. It's not tight, and what I want to do now is there's another crank here on the side. I'm going to turn this about a half a turn, and that's just going to cause these jaws to come a little bit closer together, and I want them to go together so that the clips are pretty much flush with the top of the belt. And that should be about it right there. We pull the pin out, and our lacing is installed. We'll go ahead and do this for the other side, and we'll be ready to put this belt together. So the pin material that we have, we got two different things here. So one of them, this kind of white looking stuff, is kind of a plastic material. It's kind of like a real thick monofilament fishing line, but it's actually thicker than that. It doesn't bend as well as fishing line, but it's the right diameter. This blue stuff is actually some pins that came in the box with some of the clips, and it has a metal wire inside. Then it's got this blue part is a plastic coating on the outside of that. And I'm going to use this one here, I think. And so what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and measure this. And I basically want my pin to be the same length as the width of the belt. And we'll just take some wire cutters here and cut those. And that pin will be ready to go right in there. You want to always make sure the pin is long enough that you can get a pair of pliers and pull it out if you ever need to unsplice or take the belt off. So this is now ready to go back on the machine. All right, so I've got the belt kind of wrapped around the pulleys in the direction they need to go. Notice on this end, it's not really all the way around the pulley. It's off the pulley right now, because if you have it wrapped around the pulley, you can't get it tight enough to get that pin in. Because remember, we cut this belt a little on the short side to hopefully get the stretch out of it and get it good and tight. So what I'm going to do right now is we'll go ahead and put these belts together. So I just hold them together. We take our pin. That pin slides right in there. And now that belt is held together real well. And we'll come around over here. And I wish I had an extra set of hands out here right now, but let's see if we can roll this belt onto this pulley. All right, so we've got the first belt on. It's turning real well. And I'll take you down here and show you the side head moving. All right, we're making progress. We got the second side head belt installed now. And as you can see, they're both turning. The side heads are in counter rotation to one another. One's turning clockwise, one's turning counterclockwise. We control that by the twist or the half twist in the belt. And everything looks like it's running good. So we're going to go over here and start belting up these outside belts. All right, so we're going to start on this side next, and there's two pulleys here that power the top and bottom planing heads on here. And if you remember, this bottom head we need to belt up first, because it's going to go over the top of around this pulley, and then the extra belt will actually go on top of the belt that's beneath it here. So anyway, I got a piece of belting here, and let's figure up if it's long enough and determine where it needs to be cut. All right, so we do have some extra length. That's good. Those lacings look good. What I'm going to do again here is I'm going to pull these up as tight as I can get them by hand, and then we're going to cut the belt probably about an inch shorter here, maybe a little over an inch shorter. I think I'm going to cut it about like that. And see if we got the right tightness on there. All right, we'll feed our belt in here to the mark that we made. Cut the belt off square. We'll save that. We may need this to splice one together later. We get our gauge here. That looks like a number 4. So cut that one about right there. Open the jaws up all the way, insert the lacing, insert the pin. Oh, missed the last one there. I'll get it here in a second. All right, so sometimes these pins will kind of jump out on you, and you have to put one in by hand without using the card. And what you want to do is you look in here, these alternate. If you look, that clip is higher on one side than the other. And we want to alternate these. So the high one is over here, so this one needs to go in like this. You can pull this out just far enough for that pin to still have the other ones clipped down and slide it in there. Sometimes you may want to use needle nose pliers or something to get down in there, particularly with the smaller lacing. But that's ready to go. We'll insert our belt. Again, you want to make sure that this belt is all the way down to this grate in the bottom, and tighten it up. That should be it. All right, we'll put these together. Insert the pin. And let's see how we did on the length. That actually feels pretty good. All right. So now we'll see if we got a belt to go around the outside here. All right, folks, we are getting there. We got the belts installed on this side of the machine. I've got one more belt to put on the other side. We'll show you that in a second. But I'm out of belting, so I'm going to have to scrounge some more up. About run out of time for today. So we're going to probably call it quits for now. But we have made a lot of progress. I will say that some of this belting, I'm not sure how well it's going to hold up. There's a lot of dry rotting in some of these, so I don't know. We'll have to get them powered up and start running a little bit. But I have a suspicion we'll probably be replacing some of these belts as we start using it, and you know, we'll just take that as it comes, and we may be able to dig up some more belting out here as well. I'm gonna have to dig up some for that side. So let's take the other side so you can kind of see what we got over there. All right, so this side of the machine, what I'm gonna call the operator side of the machine, because this is the side that you have the control, everything, all the control stuff is on this side. You'll be able to walk along and make adjustments to the machine. The other side is kind of the way the belt drive pulley will be. Really will have more difficulty getting around on that side of the machine, so everything will be done on this side. We've got on this side the drive mechanism for the feed works, and it's just a belt. It's about a 2.5-inch belt that goes around the tight loose pulley up here. If you remember from before, this outside pulley is a loose pulley. It just spins on the shaft. The inside pulley is tightened down to the shaft. So right now it's on the drive. So when it's in this mode, it's going to be moving. It'll be turning this pulley, which will engage the feed works and pull the boards through the planer. When you flip this handle right here, while it's under power, that will shift that belt from the drive to the idler, and that's how you stop the feed work. So if you do that, your board will stop feeding. All the planer heads are still going, but you've quit feeding the wood. And on this side here, we also have another drive pulley for the top cutter head, and it will go around the top of this, around this one, over the top of here, and around here. So this will be just like the other side. Except on the other side, remember, we were actually running on top of another belt. And really, right now, that bottom shaft is not turning very well, and the reason is we need the extra tension on this belt here for it to all work like it's supposed to. So again, I don't have another belt right now to put on here, so we're done for today, but we, again, made some progress. So round up some more belting, and we can get this knocked out pretty quick. So that'll conclude this one. Hopefully you've been able to see how to do some lacing, learn a little bit about putting together belts for flat belt machinery, and we're getting closer to getting this thing fired up, guys.